Greetings, people of YouTube. This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing you another video. As you can see, before I start, my face has cleared up, so no more band-aid on my face anymore. Pretty much good now in that regard. But anyway, I guess what I can say is Brawl. Okay, so as I said before, so as I said in my previous video, we would be starting Brawl, you know, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, which came out, I believe, in 2008. So Brawl was a pretty major game during its time, and you know, today, you know, with the new game out, it's still only been a couple of months or so since that's come out. So in reality, it's still relevant. It's still a very good game, and I mean, it's relevant to begin with. I mean, people still play it today, even though the new one's out. Brawl was a pretty major game. So many things were introduced. Lots of new characters. This time around, I plan on actually having my computer on my lap this time, because in the past when I've done it, I didn't have it. So certain characters I would miss, like for the Melee one, I forgot Falco. Sorry about that. I put an annotation, I believe, for it. So if you watched my Melee video, you probably saw the annotation, basically so that you know that I do know that Falco was one that I forgot to mention, but when I made the video, I didn't actually have the list in front of me, so this is how I'm going to discuss things. Before I actually go into characters that are new, I'd like to discuss characters that actually ended up leaving the roster. So just hold on 2 seconds, and I will have myself all ready to discuss the roster with you. I just need to grab something, I just need to look at something real quickly, and I'll be back. I'll be there in 2 seconds. Alright everybody, so as I was saying, so characters that ended up being removed, it was a pretty big deal at the time. Which characters were removed? Well, for one, Pichu was removed. Yes, a character that everyone wanted to be removed, definitely got removed. So don't worry, Pichu is gone at this point. For those that haven't played Brawl, but maybe have played Melee and was like, oh, I'm not going to do the Brawl scene because Brawl's because of certain issues that Brawl had. We'll get into those soon enough. Okay. So, anyway, Pichu was removed, you know, the one Pokemon that everyone just wanted to get rid of. But then there was Pokemon that everyone didn't want to disappear, which sadly did. Which Pokemon was that? Well, that was Mewtwo. Everyone really got annoyed about that. But the thing was that Mewtwo was meant to be in Brawl. That's actually a known fact. Mewtwo was meant to be in Brawl, but due to time restraints, they could not put Mewtwo in. Sadly, that was an issue for its time, but you know, but that later will be fixed apparently with the next Smash, which is out now. But you know, they're including Mewtwo as a DLC character in the new Smash. Anyway, what other characters were removed this time? Well, Roy was removed. Roy was another character that a lot of people were really annoyed about when they decided to remove him, due to the fact that, well, a lot of people thought Roy was better than Marth, although some people thought Marth was better than Roy, or just in general they wanted more Fire Emblem characters, because, you know, Marth and Roy were the two characters that really brought people's interest, like made people interested in the Fire Emblem franchise in America, because prior to that, no one knew about them in America, really, unless they played like unless they played any Japanese games, really. Otherwise, you know, play on the Japanese systems that had Fire Emblem, played the Fire Emblem games because they knew about them or something. Other than that, they had no idea about them. So who else was removed? Well, Young Link was removed. And you know what? It was fair because they replaced him with someone that actually was a little bit more relevant for his time. Because Young Link was based off of The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, Young Link. They replaced him with someone that's similar to Young Link, but instead was based off of the current console's newcomer. I guess I could say now Toon Link. So that was a fair trade-off, and you know, to be honest with you, most people a lot of people really preferred Toon Link over Young Link anyway, and I don't really know many people that really cared about it. Not to mention the other thing is that Young Link is basically the equivalent of, like, is a character that seemed very unnecessary and really just felt like exactly like Link, while Toon Link actually had some differences. Not to mention there were stages specific to Toon Link, specific to Toon Link compared to Young Link, so that's a good point. Who else was removed? Let me look here for a second because I have my list. Well, I believe that was it. Yeah, that was about it. Oh yeah, what did I say? Dr. Mario. Dr. Mario was removed also because of the fact that, you know, Dr. Mario was practically Mario. Well, the thing is that, technically, is that Dr. Mario did come back later, you know, in the next installment, and was meant to just be a skin, but, you know, as everyone knows, they decided, okay, we'll make him a full-fledged character because you know, he acted as one. Dr. Mario, you know, as I've previously said in my Melee video, was, you know, a much more powerful character than Mario. It's a cool thing. I think it's pretty true, but still, it depends on your playstyle. It depends on who you like better. But that's usually what most people go with for Dr. Mario compared to Mario. But yeah, they got rid of him because they just knew that that would fill up an extra spot, and it was just unnecessary. So, newcomers. So let's talk a little bit about them. Alright, well, so the newcomers that were brought in you'd start off with a decent roster, but you'd have to gain those through a number of different ways, as usual, but this time there was some variation, which we'll get into soon enough. So, what characters were introduced? Well, characters that would be introduced would include Diddy Kong, so, you know, Donkey Kong's like nephew, which a lot of people really love today and has become a pretty favorable character. And you know, his trademark peanut gun, like his peanut gun's there, his rocket cannon pack, whatever is there. He's a very cool character and very interesting. Who else was introduced? Well, Pit was introduced. As I previously mentioned in my N64 video, Masahiro Sakurai, the creator of Smash, was the founder of the Kirby franchise and also the Kid Icarus franchise. So it only made sense for him to establish another character from that franchise. And one thing that has been noted in by several people was the fact that Sakurai was early on didn't want to like make his own franchises super emphasized, because at the time, for those that know the Smash Brothers, for those that know him, you have to remember that he has these two franchises, and there's a lot of characters that he could just as easily put in. But he decided, okay, we won't introduce them like immediately, and we're not going to make these characters ridiculous. Which is why what they decided to do was, for the first two games, they only had Kirby in. Like, they never put in another character from his franchises, really. And they decided for the second game to make him like probably one of the most powerful characters ever in Melee. No joke. That's actually really true. Like, he was probably one of the most powerful characters ever in Melee. But then they decided to balance it out when it came time to put in other characters. So then he decided to bring in, you know, Pit from Kid Icarus, which also was meant to advertise what they would be doing within the next couple of years, which would be Kid Icarus Uprising, which would be a major game that would introduce a number of other major characters, and two of those characters that would be introduced in that game would come into the later game. But we'll get into those when we go into the 3DS and the Wii U version. Anyway, as I was saying, so Pit was introduced. Who else was introduced? Well, as I said before, other characters from the franchises that he's established were brought in. So who else was introduced? Meta Knight and King Dedede. So Meta Knight was a character back when Brawl came out that everyone just thought was ridiculous, stupid. One of the most, probably the cheapest character ever. Not to mention the fact that he was banned from pretty much all tournaments due to the fact that at the time, when you press down on his special attack, just neutral special, no up special, down special, no nothing, just neutral special, you could do that tornado infinitely. There was no stopping you. You could just do that infinitely, it wouldn't make a difference, and Meta Knight just was banned from all tournaments. Like, no one would accept Meta Knight because of that. Who else? Well, King Dedede, of course, another character from from the Kirby franchise was introduced, and you know he's known for his hammer. He's a very powerful character. A lot of people really love him. I love him to death. He's great. He was great in Brawl, and he's still great today. I love the fact that they put him in. And so yeah, that was really great. Who else was introduced? Well, as previously mentioned, Fox and Falco were in the last game, so they decided, okay, let's put another Star Fox character. Who they put in? They put in Wolf. So was that a good thing? Was that a bad thing? Well, you know how Fox and Falco were practically the same in a lot of ways, but they had certain differences due to, like, you know, certain moves had certain tweaks, or they would fight, or they, like, one character would be faster than the other one would have more power, you know. So Wolf had like a unique style of fighting where he would kind of like, instead of like, you know, doing straight dashes and stuff like that, he would kind of jump jump from an angle, or he would do, or his attacks would kind of like have like a wider range or something else. Like that's the differences. Like you'd have those kind of differences. Another character that was introduced, which was one that a lot of people were hoping to be brought back in for the Wii U version and the 3DS version, was the Pokemon Trainer. Sadly, that did not happen, but they did replace it with Charizard, which we'll get into later. But the Pokemon Trainer allows you to control Pokemon, of course. So which ones? Squirtle, Ivysaur, and Charizard. So you could switch out between any of the three, and that was how they based it. And it was a pretty good concept. And the idea would be that you'd be able to choose by just pressing do your down special, which would just let you swap in, and that would be how you would establish changing. Although if let's just say you were a Squirtle and you died, you'd automatically spawn. You wouldn't spawn as a Squirtle, you'd spawn probably as as Ivysaur. I'm gonna say not Venusaur, Ivysaur. And then if you died as Ivysaur, you'd spawn as Charizard. And then if you die as Charizard, you'd become Squirtle. So you get the point. You could swap in at any point, and if you die, then you swap into the next one within your setup, like you would in like a regular Pokemon game based off of your party. Though in this case, it would be with no. In this case, you would just automatically have to swap to the next member rather than, you know, that. But you could swap in mid-match. You get the point. It's like Pokemon in a way. It's very clever. It was a very smart concept that they did back then, and you know people still love that today. And it was a good concept. As far as what the Pokemon Trainer himself does, he doesn't do much other than say, okay, good job, let's go Squirtle, let's go Ivysaur, let's go Charizard. Like he would say like one or two words here and there, like a few phrases, and where would he be on the stage? Would he kind of just be in the background, like he would be in the background and stuff. He wouldn't be like, you wouldn't be able to hurt him, because like, you know, in a Pokemon match, the Pokemon wouldn't charge at the trainer necessarily. Well, unless you're talking about the anime where Pokemon would like be friendly and stuff, but that's completely separate. We're not talking about Ash Ketchum here. You get the point. Who else? Well, they decided to also bring in, well, as I said before, they got rid of Roy, which was pretty similar to Martha, though he had, you know, some minor changes here and there. They decided to put in Ike. Ike has become a pretty major character and has stayed in since, and believe me, in a lot of ways, I personally feel that I'm glad that they kept him in, that they decided to put Ike in and kept him in for the next game, because Ike was a really worthwhile character, and to mention, he has like a great up special, and he's a very heavy hitter, and he's like one of my favorite fighters to use because he's so powerful and he's just so good to use. Not the fastest fighter in the world, but very useful though. Another character that was brought in, which was a major thing at the time, would be Snake. He was the only like first-party character, because they were trying to establish third-party characters at the time. They wanted to experiment, so they decided, okay, let's put in Snake. Although Snake had been Nintendo property at one point, but the thing was that only happened like for like the first game or so that existed. Which, as everyone knows, Snake comes from the Metal Gear Solid franchise. So they decided to put in Snake, and Snake was a pretty big deal. There were some really awesome features that they put in, which I'll get into eventually with him, in regards to the fact that he had unique taunts, which we'll get into soon. But yeah, he was a very cool fighter, you know. All of his moves were based off of his weapons and like, he had like a sniper rifle, which doesn't really, not a sniper rifle, a sniper, which really doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but they tried third party, so ask them. I mean, everyone loves Snake, it's just that it doesn't really fit very well with the rest of the characters where they kind of just blend in very well, where he kind of just feels like he's human while the rest of them are kind of like in their own world in a way, if you know what I mean. And you know, he'd have that, he'd have grenades, he'd have mines. I mean, those were like it's basically like putting in Call of Duty, like putting in like that first person character into Call of Duty, like from Call of Duty, like the Call of Duty characters in, and using that, like, you know, how that would feel like. That's awkward. That's really awkward. Yeah, so I loved using him when he was there, but he's not there anymore in the next, you know, in the Wii U and the 3DS version. And believe me, personally, I'm kind of happier that they did that. What else? What other characters were introduced? Well, one thing that they've decided to do since Brawl would be put in a Pokemon from the current generation that had been out during the time of the launch. So what would that be? Well, that was 4th gen, which was Sinnoh. So they decided, okay, well, let's put in like a fighting type Pokemon or something along those lines, or something that looks like a fighter. And they decided, okay, well, what looks like a fighter? For this generation, they decided, okay, let's put in Lucario. And you know what? There's a lot of good reasons. First of all, Lucario looks like a fighter. Second of all, Lucario has been is in like I think it's Lucario's in so many episodes in the anime. Not to mention Lucario's like one of the main Pokemon in a movie. Like he has his own movie with Mew, which is pretty major. So in other words, they're basically emphasizing, yes, it's Lucario, it's Lucario, it's Lucario. You don't have to ask us. We know it's Lucario. It's gonna be 4th gen. We get it. We know what's gonna happen. We're all good. Like that's really what they did. They're just trying to emphasize that yes, Lucario is gonna be in it, and Lucario was one that I really loved. Great Pokemon, and you know he resembled a lot of the things that Mewtwo brought. So they basically, so they basically took a lot of what they had with Mewtwo. Basically, Lucario in a lot of ways resembled Mewtwo, except that he wasn't as floaty, and he was more, and he had like a lot more fighting type moves rather than the psychic type of moves that Mewtwo had. So it was good, and you know they kept in the Shadow Ball, which was fun. Actually, it wasn't Shadow Ball. Well, it was similar to Shadow Ball. They decided to put in, in this case, it would be Aurora Spear. You know, same idea. You get the point. You could technically learn Shadow Ball if you really wanted to, but that's not what they really base it off of. What am I saying? And then there were some other characters. So who else was brought in? I'm talking so much about all these characters, I know, and I should be going into some more stuff. Well, there was Sonic, and Sonic was a huge announcement because at the time, people were hoping to finally see Mario go up against Sonic, because for the longest of time there's been that rivalry between Mario and Sonic, and everyone always would be like, oh, who's better, Mario or Sonic? And they would never be able to have like a real fight between the two of them, and you know, there'd always be those theories, not to mention the fact that there was a whole entire competition between Sega and Nintendo, and there'd be like, Sega does with Nintendo, you know what I mean, like those kind of commercials. Now they can finally have them fighting each other, so that was good. Who else is brought in? Well, Wario. So yeah, Wario, another major character from the. I mean, it's Wario is his own franchise, but technically at one point Wario was technically part of Mario. And not to mention Wario was meant to be like a cousin to Mario, so you get the point. So yeah, Wario was brought in. Wario was gassy. Wario was Wario. If you haven't played the game, you play Brawl or play the new game, you'll basically get the same idea. You know, he likes to fart. He likes to do a lot of gross things. He likes to chomp on your face. He's pretty gross. I already spoke about Toon Link a little bit. You know, he was based off of the Wind Waker game. Then there was Rob. So as I mentioned in my previous video, there's this common trend that they tend to do with the games where they end up advertising an old console. Previously it was Mr. Game & Watch with the Game & Watch. This time they decided to do it with Rob. What was Rob meant to be? Well, Rob himself was a toy for the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System, which was the first, which was like the original major Nintendo console, the one that brought everyone out of the crash of, I think it was '83, I believe it was. And Rob was one of the first games that most people got for the NES back when it first came out, and he was an appliance. Well, no, he was not an appliance. He was an accessory. So you could use him for only 2 games: Gyromite and I'm trying to remember. It's Gyromite and one other game I'm forgetting right now. I'll probably have it as an annotation somewhere. I'm right now forgetting exactly what it was, but yeah, it was a pretty big deal at the time. Who else? Well, there would be Olimar. Olimar was from the Pikmin franchise, so that was made by Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of Mario, Link, all these major franchises. So yeah, Pikmin. So they decided to put in Olimar. So that was a big deal at the time. Olimar was not the best he could be. Plenty of people liked him though, but he wasn't what he is now, where he has like a great recovery. His moves are better. He feels a lot better. But he was good back then. It's just that his recovery was terrible. His recovery was terrible. He was powerful though. Like, I mean, if you used his if you used the C-stick using him, like with a GameCube controller, he was very good, but otherwise he was very mixed, very mixed. Anyone else? Well, there was Lucas. So Lucas was similar to Ness. The main differences were the fact that, well, Ness would speak in Japanese, Lucas would speak in English, and certain moves would be changed slightly. Like, for example, Lucas would have ice related move, like he had an ice related move, and there were some other moves that were unique to him. But overall, a lot of his moves were similar. Some of his taunts were different though, but overall he was a pretty comparable character. He was similar, like people consider him like a clone to Ness, and Lucas, a lot of people loved him. He was great. So yeah, I think I've gone through pretty much the entire roster this time. I know last time and for the N64 I missed a few characters, and I apologize for that. I meant to include all of them, but I forgot to use my computer at that time. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. So anyway, as I've said, I just basically went through the entire roster. I don't have to, so yeah, that's good. I'm happy. Please. You have no idea how happy that makes me. What else can I say? Alright, well, there was a lot of things that were introduced for this game. Well, let's talk about the old first before I go into the new. Well, Classic was brought back, and so was All-Star Mode. They were pretty much the same overall, aside from minor differences here and there between Classic Mode and All-Star Mode. What else? Well, there was Adventure Mode back again. But in this case, rather than it being what it was before, where there was no real story going on, there was a continuous story, which was referred to as Subspace. Subspace was a unique mode that could take anywhere from 3 hours onward, depending on how good you are at the game, depending on how many times you've beaten it. For me, I've beaten it so many times now that I can beat it in probably like 3, 4, maybe 5 hours or so. Not too bad. Some people can beat it really fast, some people can beat it really slow. Really depends. There are ways to like glitch through it, get really far into it. But you get the point. A lot of people loved it. It introduced a lot of unique things, and it was one of the ways you could unlock a lot of those characters, because you either had to fight them all through doing like crazy amount of matches in a row, like over, not in a row, just over, not in a row, but like over time. Or what you could do is do Subspace, where what would happen is that there'd be this continuous story going on, and as the story would go on, you would different characters would be introduced. They'd have like this lower third that would show up that would basically say a certain character, like maybe it's Lucario or maybe it's Lucas or something like that, you know. They would do something along those lines to basically say, okay, this is this character. And they would do that for every single character. Like, even if it's a character that's existed since the beginning. Like, they did it for Mario. They did it for Kirby. They do it for Peach. They do it for Zelda. They do it for all these different characters. Like, don't get me wrong. They'll do it for every character. Like, they do it for all the characters that are in it. And believe me, you can unlock all the characters by just playing Subspace. If you do that, no problem. Though like the last 3 characters that you have to unlock, I believe it was, what was it again? I think it was Toon Link, Wolf, and Jigglypuff. Yeah, maybe like one extra character. I believe it was just Toon Link, Wolf, and Jigglypuff. Those 3 characters, you would have to. Those 3 characters would probably be the hardest ones to get because, unlike the others, like the other ones you could just get really. Like most of them were pretty simple to get, or they would just be included in the story. Like if you're at that point in the story, you got it. There's no question. You don't even have to fight them. But the last 3 characters, no matter what, you basically have to fight. Like Wolf, Jigglypuff, and Wolf, Jigglypuff, and what was it again? I just forgot. Wolf, Jigglypuff, and I already forget that now. I'm so sorry. I just completely blank. Wolf, Jigglypuff, and Toon Link. Sorry, I'm like forgetting right now. Yeah, Wolf, Jigglypuff, and Toon Link. Which, to be honest with you, makes a lot of sense because those 3 characters would make a lot of sense for them to be featured in the story because, well, for example, Wolf is similar to Fox and Falcon. Not much of the fact that in the end, all these characters are meant to become friends, and if a villain becomes friends with a major character, it kind of doesn't work. Wario's kind of, I mean, we think well, Wario's in this, well, Bowser's in this. Bowser and, like, also Ganondorf, though they're meant to be villains, it's, like, for example, Bowser's had times where he just, where he has friended Mario, and Ganondorf, well, you know, Ganondorf gets beat by the final boss for the Adventure mode, so I believe it was, or like gets attacked or something like. Or was it Master Hand? I believe it was Master Hand. Because Master Hand's back. So is Crazy Hand. They're back. Don't worry, they're back. yeah. I believe it was Master Hand gets attacked by them, and that happens. But yeah, you know, Link and Zelda come and meet again. It's like okay. But you know, Wolf has this vendetta, and unfortunately, the other thing is we haven't seen Wolf in any recent games really that much. Since the N64, really, I don't believe he was in Star Fox or something. I don't believe so. Maybe I don't believe so though. Maybe I don't remember. But what else could I say? Toon Link, right? Toon Link would be kind of a character that would not make a whole lot of sense because you know there's Link and then there's Toon Link, and if they were both featured in it, it wouldn't work. Because like if it were young Link, because if they did this back when Melee came out, and they did like young Link and regular Link, then they could have like you know him pulling out the sword and becoming you know like either becoming young Link or becoming Toon Link, depending on when he got the Master Sword. You know what I'm talking about? You know, or the Temple of Time or whatever. You know. That would at least work, but Toon Link and normal Link don't really have a connection to one another other than the fact that because they're like you know they're technically like though they're technically both from the Legend of Zelda franchise, they're kind of from like two separate entities entirely. So it would kind of be awkward to have like 2 versions. Like it's not Sonic Generations. It's not Sonic Generations. It's not intended to be a game to celebrate. In this case, it would be Link, or just the Legend of Zelda franchise in general. No. And if you really wanted to say a game that would celebrate the Legend of Zelda franchise, that would have to be, you know, Hyrule Warriors. And even then, you can't even play as Toon Link. Yeah. Yeah, you can't. But that bothered me a lot, and I mean, there were skins for all the different variations except for Toon Link. Yeah, I know. Pisses me off too. I know. bothered me a little bit too, but at the same time, it's like, how would they really do that? That would kind of be odd, as mentioned, the majority of enemies don't even, like, think of it this way. Toon Link is tiny. Like, really tiny. Well, Link is, like, really tall. So, yeah, I don't know how that would, the fighting would look, but then again, you could say, like, well, what about Midna? Well, Midna floats. Anyway, let's not focus on Hyrule Warriors anymore. What else could I say? But you get my point. Before I continue, you get my point, right? Like, I mean, Toon Link is hard, so they really wouldn't be able to put in Toon Link. Jigglypuff, there's not much to do. I mean, would they base off the anime and put everyone to sleep? And what would be the point? It would kind of be like a filler part to the subspace. So really, it was like, let's just put them in as something to fight. Let's not really like include them as these story-oriented characters. So, yeah. Okay. But anyway, for those that haven't seen Subspace, I probably will put a link to some videos of it, like, you know, from the actual cutscenes and stuff. And also I probably have some featured in this video. I'm not 100% sure what I probably did with this video at this time, but yeah. So as you probably might have seen, yeah. For those that haven't watched it, you should definitely look into either purchasing Brawl or watching some videos of the cutscenes or something along those lines, just to basically get a sense of what Brawl looked like visually in regard to Subspace, so that you understand what the story was. I don't want to necessarily spoil anything for anyone that hasn't actually played Brawl, so I guess for now I could either put like a spoilers up. You know, actually, you know what, I'll probably just do that. So I'm gonna give you guys a good 10 seconds, like I did with my Power Rangers video a while back, for this, so that you guys can have a second or two to either jump ahead a little bit or just keep watching. So I'm gonna give you like maybe 10 seconds. Okay. Okay, so anyway, back to what I was saying. So yeah, so the final boss was Taboo. You know, at the end what happens is that all the characters end up, you end up having to go and fight all the evil forms of them, and and unlocking them again, getting them back, and then fighting off every single boss again. Like, you have to fight every single character again, and every single boss again. So, I mean, you have to fight, not again, but most of these characters you have to fight again, you get the point. Whatever. So yeah, you have to fight all those characters, all the boss, and then once you've done all that, which takes a while, but you have an option to have like, a lot of characters you can choose from, you have a lot of places to save at, there's a lot of stuff you can do, it's pretty expansive, it's pretty good. It basically lets you play through all the different areas that you've played through already, but like, you know, condensed, but it's still a pretty big area, with, like, you know, the added doors for where you can go and get all those characters. So, you know, pretty good. You don't have to get them all, but most people tend to, just so that you know that you have them in Subspace if you wanted to go back and play a Subspace cutscene, like through that, or if you want to fight the final boss, which is Taboo. Taboo, you know, as I said before, he's like the final boss. He's more powerful at the time than Master Hand or Crazy Hand. He's big, he has several different modes, and he's not too hard, but at the same time, he can be a little bit of a challenge. So, make sure to be prepared, make sure to have full health with your first character, make sure to have all your characters available to you so that you're not, like, you know, left with that one character and you're going into this battle with no character. Although most of the time they just put you in no matter what. They put you in with full health and all your characters, and you have to choose from there no matter what, so you don't have to worry about like having like one character just dying instantly. Though some people manage to finish it with just one character. That is possible. People have done that. It's hard to an extent, and depends on what difficulty you can put it at. Because that's the other thing. You can put it at different difficulties, and not to mention there are 4 difficulties. You know, there's easy, normal, hard, and I believe it was like it's either like expert or difficult or something like that, you know what I'm talking about, or very hard or something like that. It's either 4 or 5, I forget right now. What else can I say? don't know why I just did that. So yeah. Anyway, so try it out. And yeah. So as I said before, that's what happens. Eventually, everyone wins. Like it all stuff happens. I don't want to go that much into the story that much. If you need to look into the cutscenes, try to find stuff for yourself. Also, just look online. It's pretty easy to find a lot of stuff, and it's a really fun game. What else could I say? Well, also, after you beat Subspace, you can also do boss battles, which is basically, once you beat in the game, you can go and fight all those bosses again at different difficulties. Except in this case, instead of having the option of having, like, 2 or 3 characters in your to use, it's one character, and you have 1 life, and it's similar to All-Star mode in the sense is that, like, you have those health restoring points where you can go and heal up before you fight one of them. But the thing is that instead of being able to, choose to fight like one of them at a time, and then just being able to heal up. No, I mean, like, you're able to heal up. I'm gonna say, the thing is that it's like you have 1 character, you're able to heal up, but again, as I said before, you don't have like multiple lives. So if you die like on the 7th character you're fighting, that's it, and they're random. So don't expect to fight Crazy Hand as the 3rd character you fought. If you if you just fought him as the 3rd or 4th character that you had fought the previous time, because chances are he could be the 1st, he could be the 9th, he could be the 6th, who knows? It could be anything. So it's very random. So don't necessarily predict, okay, I know what to do this time, because the thing is that they mix it up. And which is good, because that means that, like, you're not, like, bored just going, okay, so I know what to do this time, I know what to do this time. No, they'll vary it. So don't think that you're going to be bored necessarily. There will be it will be boring after a while. It will be boring after a while. But the thing is that there will be some variation going on. Eventually, you get the patterns down. You're like, okay, I know what to do this time. I know what to do this time. I know what's going on here. No problem. I know who's going to show up now. I know who's going to go here. Yeah, you get that. But like, overall, it's still really fun. And you don't have to do it all. You can do it like once or twice, and it's still really fun. What else is there? Event mode's back. There's fewer this time. There's like 20 something. I think it's like 25, maybe 30. I don't know, something like that. It's not too many, but it's good enough. And you could do, and not to mention the fact that there is multiplayer event mode, basically where you can use more than one character to do event mode. 2 characters in this case. So, and in that case it's actually different. There's different events going on. And it adds a lot more to do. It's pretty fun, and if you want to, you can even do it alone and just have this random character be on the side. I mean, I've tried that. I've done that practically. It's fun. I've done that like where I have no partner and I just beat it alone while like the character there is just kind of being beat up or whatever. And you can do it. So it's totally possible, and it's pretty fun. The only thing to worry about is the last one, where basically you have one life, and you have to fight every single enemy consecutively, but not like consecutively. But it's similar to like All-Star mode, except in this case there's no like health restoring area. It's like you're continuously fighting every single one while being partnered up with someone. Though I've tried to do it without anyone, so it was hard. I mean, it's possible, but it can be hard. And I also put it at like the highest difficulty, so it's hard. I mean, it was hard. Don't get me wrong. It was hard, and believe me, even if you put it at the lowest difficulty and you do that one alone, it's still hard. It's not easy. Don't expect to have like the easiest time in the world doing it. Like, who gives it? No, it's hard. But yeah, that's in, another thing that was brought in was the achievements area, or like the challenges or whatever. So basically, if you do certain things, then you unlock certain challenges, you get like hammers available to you, which allows you to complete a certain number of challenges. Though, for this game, they decided to put in, there's like a limited number, and it's a fair amount of challenges, and you can unlock them over time. Most of them you can get pretty easily, but, it's something to look into. It's pretty fun, and if you do certain challenges, you get certain stages. If you do certain things, you get certain songs. It could be a trophy. It could be, a number of different things, and you know, it just adds on. It could be a mode, it could be something else. You know, a lot of that stuff is all up for grabs. So definitely, you know, for those completionists out there, definitely should look into it. Definitely something fun to do. As far as the multiplayer, very fun. There's lots of great stages. One thing I didn't really talk about in the past, but tons of great stages. Some of them were from Melee, like you have some character stages from Melee that you could use, some stages from Brawl, like there's stages from Brawl itself, and then you can also create your own stages. So, you know, you could create stages using certain templated objects, and you're limited, so do your best, create your whatever stage you like. So there's some imagination you can do in that regard. It's not the best thing in the world. A lot of times people just put in spikes or, you know, areas where you can just get hurt in general, or just something like along those lines. There's also sample stages. So in other words, you have options. You have lots of options. You can create stages. You can also choose what music is playing for that stage. So, you know, there's stuff going on. You have lots of variation. You have lots of different song options also. Tons of stuff to do. It's a very good game. It's pretty expansive. You know, a whole bunch of stuff is there. You have your own. There's this own section for, like, you know, multi-man, melee, like multi-man, melee, and then there's also you know, home run contest and also target smash. You can do all that without having to go through classic mode. You can do all that too. So overall, you get the point. There's a lot of stuff to do. It's a pretty expansive game. Depending on how much you choose to do, it could take you a really short time, it could take you a very long time. It really depends on how much you want to invest into it. Depends on if you're just going to focus on subspace. Depends on if you're just going to do only matches with your friends. If you choose to just do matches with your friends, you don't have a copy, I suggest playing through subspace once, just so you get a sense of the story, and then you can just play that and just, you know, get all the characters, be happy, and then just play with your friends. It's still really fun to play. I know that the new game's out, most people are playing that now, but believe me, it's still fun to play. It was a great game, and it still is a great game. So don't think badly of it. As far as what I have to say otherwise, what I plan on doing next time would be actually talking about something that's referred to as Project M. So Project M, just to give you guys a little bit of a heads up on that, it's basically basically they take Brawl and they take Melee, and one of the things that I forgot to talk about before was about the speed of the game. So Melee is known for being very fast, having a certain style of fighting, certain things that are unique to it, while Brawl is not slow, but not, you know, at that same speed that Melee was. In other words, like, consider Melee to be at this speed, while Brawl is more like here. Maybe a little bit higher. Something like that. So, because of this, a lot of people are used to this, not to this. Although some people who started off with this are used to that, but people who decided to maybe, but you get the point. Yeah. So the thing is that what people decided to do was make Project M, which is somewhere that's like kind of in, like around here. So what's that? That's like right in between. So, you know, it's not necessarily as slow as Brawl, but it's not necessarily as fast as Melee. So it's reasonable speed. A lot of the overall, like, moves and stuff like that are connected to Brawl. I might just, you know what, I probably would just do it in this video because, you know what, I could easily talk about it here. What does Project M have as far as differences? Because it's very limited. You can, and remember now it's 3.5's out, so that's good. You know, a lot of characters were brought back, so like Mewtwo was brought back, he has lots of different outfits. A lot of characters have new outfits that are exclusive to like certain games. So like, for example, Samus has ones from, you know, the Metroid Prime series, or, you know, Mewtwo has like his armor from the first movie, or you know, there's lots of different ones that are unique to each character that make them stand out, or ones that are specific to something completely different. Like, there's also one from Pokemon Battle Quest or something like that. I forget what it's called name. called now. I probably will have like an image of it or something. Yeah, like him having the Charizard having armor on. I mentioned the thing is that now you're able to play as each of them individually rather than having to be stuck with swapping in as different ones. Not to mention the things that your down special is different, so for each one. And there's been lots of changes overall. Certain moves have been changed in it for each character. Certain characters have variations on moves. Like for example, Ivy's working down to a solar beam, which is very cool. You know, there's lots of different things that have been changed overall. So you know, there's a lot of variation. It's something to definitely look into. It's a different playing style. Just as a warning to those that don't have it and may just have Brawl and may have been trying to get Project M. A fair warning, which everyone typically will not necessarily realize until they end up getting an SD card and finding out for themselves and complaining. So since Brawl came out in 2008, this was during the time that 2 GB SD cards were common, and the game really only supported 2 GB SD cards. You could use 4 GB SD cards. It's just that they weren't necessarily meant for Brawl. In the same way. I mean, you could use it for pictures and stuff, but you couldn't do it. There's just another thing I mentioned, which is the fact that you can't take pictures. But the thing was that because of this, when it comes to playing Project M, you have to have a 2 GB SD card, and you have to have nothing on it. So make sure that you have nothing on it. It's 2 GB. As far as what I would suggest to do in regard to getting it, because a lot of my friends and myself also had this problem when it comes to getting Project M, but fortunately for me, I've had it for like, I don't know, almost 2 years now. So it was, you know, it's well worth it. It's pretty easily downloaded. Just make sure you have that SD card. What I would say is order it online. It's not. It should come pretty fast. Just look around. It's not that hard to find otherwise. If you really are desperate for it, you can try to go to certain like pharmacies. I would just say this now, it's not going to be the easiest thing to look for at pharmacies, regardless of going there. You could try Staples. Staples doesn't really have it, so don't expect. So just so you know, don't think, oh, okay, I'll just go to Staples because Staples has like all the computer stuff. I would try a pharmacy that has like, you know, a computer system like CVS or something along those lines, or Walgreens maybe. Try one of those places. Maybe you'll find it. I just don't expect it. I would just say right now, if you're looking to get it, I highly recommend going to a store that sells a lot of that stuff. But like, just realize this now. Don't expect Walgreens or CVS or Staples to necessarily have it. Just, if I were you, and this is something that I did, some of my friends have done it, but you could look around all you want. It's possible you'll find it. It's just hard. Order it online. Just do it. Because if you don't do it that way, it's going to be a lot more of a hassle. I had a friend who recently was trying to get Project M because 3.5 was coming out, and he tried to order it online. He tried to look around, and the only places where he could find out were like a huge distance away. I live in, you know, on the East Coast, and he'd have to travel a good like 30 plus minutes away, if not. The East Coast doesn't matter. You get the point. Like, you'd have to travel at least like a 30-minute distance, if not more. So I would say, unless you know that you can find a place that has it, look online, go on like eBay or Amazon, and it should come in, you know, within a week or so. Shouldn't be that hard. So anyway, again, this has been Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing you our Super Smash Brothers Brawl video, and I will see you guys next time for our Super Smash Brothers for 3DS. All right. Again, this has been Crazy Samurai 71, and I'm out.